Inside the Mind, Understanding Anxiety and Depression, a Deep Medical Exploration. The Invisible Storm. Imagine this. You're lying in bed at 3 a.m. Your heart is racing, your thoughts are tangled, and every muscle feels tense, as if danger lurks in the shadows. But there's no threat, no tiger, no fire, no intruder. That is anxiety, the body's ancient alarm system misfiring in the modern world. And then, on another day, you wake up heavy, not tired, but empty. Food tastes bland, music feels hollow. You scroll endlessly, but nothing matters. That's depression, not sadness, but the absence of vitality itself. Both anxiety and depression are not mere emotions. They are neurochemical storms, rewiring how your brain processes fear, reward, and reality. Let's go inside the brain. The architecture of emotion, limbic system, and prefrontal control. In the center of your brain sits the limbic system, a collection of ancient structures that handle emotion, survival, and memory. The amygdala, your fear center. It detects threat and triggers the fight or flight response. The hippocampus, your memory librarian, cataloging emotional experiences. The hypothalamus, your hormonal switchboard, controlling cortisol and adrenaline release. The prefrontal cortex, PFC, your rational pilot, regulating the impulses from the amygdala. In a healthy mind, the prefrontal cortex keeps the amygdala calm. It says, "Relax, it's just a presentation, not a lion." But in anxiety, the amygdala hijacks the system. The PFC's calming voice is drowned out by emotional overactivity. In depression, the opposite imbalance occurs. Activity in the prefrontal cortex drops, especially in the dorsolateral region, leading to poor emotional regulation and cognitive slowing. The limbic circuits may become overactive, especially in areas linked to sadness and rumination. So, while anxiety is often overactivation, depression is often underactivation, two sides of the same neural coin. The chemical orchestra, neurotransmitters at play. Let's now step into the microscopic realm, the synapse, where nerve cells communicate using chemical messengers called neurotransmitters. Serotonin, 5-HT, known as the mood stabilizer. Low serotonin levels are linked to depression, anxiety, and irritability. Serotonin modulates mood, sleep, appetite, and the perception of pain. In the Raphe nuclei of the brainstem, serotonin neurons project throughout the cortex and limbic areas, fine-tuning emotional tone. SSRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, like fluoxetine and sertraline, work by blocking serotonin reuptake, keeping more of it available in the synaptic cleft. But remember, the effect is not immediate. It takes weeks because the receptor sensitivity and gene expression gradually adjust. Norepinephrine, noradrenaline. This is your alertness chemical, produced mainly in the locus coeruleus. In anxiety, norepinephrine is often overactive, driving hypervigilance, restlessness, and racing thoughts. In depression, it's often underactive, leading to fatigue, lack of motivation, and poor focus. Drugs like SNRIs, serotonin norepinephrine reuptake inhibitors, target both systems to rebalance the circuitry. Dopamine, the reward and motivation chemical, originating from the ventral tegmental area, VTA, and substantia nigra. Dopamine helps you feel pleasure, anticipate rewards, and move with purpose. In depression, the mesolimbic pathway loses dopamine tone. Life's pleasures become colorless. This is why depressed people often say, "I don't enjoy anything anymore." In anxiety, dopamine dysregulation can amplify anticipatory fear, making the brain hyper-alert to possible punishment instead of reward. GABA and glutamate. GABA is the main inhibitory neurotransmitter. It calms the brain. Glutamate is the main excitatory neurotransmitter. It energizes neural activity. In anxiety disorders, GABA is often low and glutamate too high, creating an overexcited neural state. That's why drugs like benzodiazepines, though risky for long-term use, enhance GABA activity to induce calm. Recent research also shows glutamate dysregulation in depression, leading to overactivation of NMDA receptors and neuron toxicity. This led to interest in ketamine therapy, which blocks NMDA receptors and rapidly reduces depressive symptoms. The stress hormone axis, cortisol and the HPA system. Every emotion has a hormonal footprint. In anxiety and depression, the HPA axis is often disrupted. The hypothalamus releases CRH, corticotropin-releasing hormone. This triggers the pituitary gland to release ACTH, adrenocorticotropic hormone, which tells the adrenal glands to secrete cortisol. Cortisol prepares you for stress. It raises blood sugar, suppresses digestion, and heightens alertness. But in chronic anxiety or depression, cortisol stays elevated too long, damaging neurons, especially in the hippocampus, the memory center. That's why many depressed or anxious patients experience memory problems and mental fog. Their stress system is essentially stuck in the on position. The neural pathways of pain and emotion. Anxiety and depression are deeply tied to physical sensations. The anterior cingulate cortex, insula, and somatosensory cortices form an emotional pain network. The same circuits that signal physical pain also process emotional pain, loneliness, rejection, loss. This overlap explains why emotional distress hurts in a literal neurological sense. Interestingly, drugs like acetaminophen have been shown in studies to blunt social pain because the pathways overlap. Genetics, trauma, and plasticity. Now, let's talk about why some people develop anxiety or depression while others under similar stress do not. It's never one thing. Genetics. Certain genes affect serotonin transporters, dopamine receptors, or cortisol sensitivity. For example, the 5-HTLPR gene short allele is linked to increased vulnerability to depression under stress. Trauma. Childhood neglect, abuse, or even chronic uncertainty reshape brain development. MRI studies show smaller hippocampal volumes and hyperactive amygdalas in adults who experienced early trauma. Neuroplasticity. Your brain is not static. Chronic stress reduces BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, a protein that supports neuron growth and repair. Low BDNF means neurons in the hippocampus and PFC shrink, weakening emotional regulation. Antidepressants, exercise, and mindfulness all boost BDNF, helping the brain to rewire toward resilience. The gut-brain connection. The story deepens. Your mental health is not just in your skull, it's also in your gut. The gut microbiome produces neurotransmitter precursors, modulates inflammation, and communicates via the vagus nerve. Inflammation in the gut can trigger systemic inflammation, elevating cytokines like IL-6 and TNF-alpha. These molecules can cross into the brain and alter neurotransmission, worsening anxiety and depression. That's why diet matters. High sugar, high fat diets promote inflammation, while omega-3s, probiotics, and fiber improve gut health and, in turn, mental health. The clinical phases of anxiety and depression. Anxiety disorders. Generalized anxiety disorder, constant free-flowing worry. Panic disorder, sudden intense fear with heart palpitations and breathlessness. Social anxiety disorder, fear of humiliation or judgment in social settings. Phobias, intense fear of specific objects or situations. OCD and PTSD, though distinct, they share anxiety circuitry, overactive amygdala, and impaired extinction learning. Depressive disorders. Major depressive disorder, persistent sadness, loss of interest, hopelessness. Dysthymia, persistent depressive disorder, chronic low mood lasting over 2 years. Bipolar depression, alternating episodes of mania and depression. Seasonal affective disorder, SAD, triggered by light deficiency affecting melatonin and serotonin. These are not personality flaws. They are neurobiological conditions with measurable changes in brain structure and chemistry. Modern treatments and brain modulation. Pharmacology. SSRI/SNRIs rebalance serotonin and norepinephrine. Atypical antidepressants target dopamine like bupropion. Benzodiazepines, quick relief for anxiety but risk dependence. Beta blockers calm the physical symptoms of panic. Ketamine and esketamine, rapid-acting antidepressants working through glutamate modulation. Non-drug therapies. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, retrains negative thought loops and fear responses. Mindfulness and meditation lower anxiety reactivity, increase prefrontal control. Exercise boosts dopamine, serotonin, endorphins, and BDNF, all antidepressant molecules. Sleep hygiene restores hormonal and neurotransmitter balance. Light therapy helps with seasonal depression by regulating circadian rhythm. Neuromodulation. TMS, transcranial magnetic stimulation. Magnetic fields re-energize prefrontal circuits. ECT, electroconvulsive therapy, for severe treatment-resistant depression, resets neural networks. The healing brain. Recovery is possible because the brain is plastic. It learns, adapts, and heals. When therapy or medication reduces anxiety, what's really happening is neural rewiring.